Hi, hey, hi, hello, it is me, your void, and I totally forgot to film an intro, so yeah, this is me literally from just finishing the last part of this wrap-up video, so yeah, don't look at me, go look at me from the past who has read books. Go. Remember how I said to ignore the sniffles at the end of my January wrap-up? It is now February, and I'm completely stuffed. I woke up because I couldn't breathe. Happy fun times. But we're not here to lament about the state of my nose and my breathing, so let me tell you about the thing that I read and the thing that I DNF'd, because we're already a couple of days into this. So the thing that I read is the thing that gets me, according to the rules of my TBR game, to the place where I can get the thing that I need to build myself a pocket beach. So I read The Light of My Life by people. I know 2 people wrote that, and I got this as an ARC via NetGalley, so I just slapped it on there. It's romancy enough to count for my February reading plans that were semi-derailed by the game. I read it. It's not that spectacular. It's actually on the lower end of smutty boys love romances manga things. Wow, apparently I'm also incapable of thinking and wording said thoughts. The plot is just weird and just strong enough to not necessarily make sense, but to keep these characters together. It's very much a vehicle for getting these characters together. The thing is, there are a lot of problems with yaoi. We all know that. It's not necessarily the healthiest of relationships in these things, but this one actually takes the cake, in my opinion, because both of these characters had their dreams. One wanted to become a doctor, and the other one wanted to become a famous football player. That's soccer for all of the Americans out there. And throughout the manga, we learn that the soccer dream was destroyed by an injury, and that injury is also the reason why the doctor didn't become a doctor. And this is where this relationship gets unhealthy, because the doctor character actually became a doctor. He became a doctor. He just never did anything with it. Instead, he is now working for a host club. And that is the other part of the equation that makes this so weird. Because the doctor is only sticking around because he feels responsible for the injury that happened. The football player is now working as a hairdresser. He started at the salon of his grandpa, and then he inherited that salon, and he's doing well. He has worked through the fact that his dream was destroyed by an injury, and he is now living an okay life. He's not complaining. Except he seems to be personally offended that his friend is not a doctor. Like, he has the license, but he's not working as a doctor. So the hairdresser is constantly hounding the doctor friend. Why are you not a doctor? Why aren't you following your dreams? Why aren't you doing the thing you said you would do when you were in high school? And the doctor is so full of guilt that he sticks around the hairdresser, but is not telling him why. And I just don't think that is a healthy relationship. They are not even, like, apparently, the story says they have been friends since high school, but I don't even buy their friendship most of the time. And then the host, the doctor who's now working in the host club, has to move in with the hairdresser because for some reason he doesn't have an apartment, even though it is reiterated multiple times that this man has money. He comes from money, he has money, so why doesn't he just get an apartment? Anyway, he moves in with the hairdresser, they live together, they start figuring life around each other out, and then the hairdresser figures out why the doctor is sticking around. He feels guilty for the injury he caused. He didn't cause it, but like he thinks he caused it, it's his mistake. And the doctor thinks, because I destroyed your dream, I am not allowed to live mine. The fuck? So then they have a little falling out, but then they are apart from each other, which is when both of them realize their feelings for each other, and then they make up and they move back in together, and then the doctor actually becomes a doctor and is like working all around the world, and the hairdresser is getting new and improved clients because the third friend who knew the entire time why they are sticking around each other and why that they are very much in love with each other. That friend is an actor and a model, and he's now inviting all of these famous people to the hair salon. So now the hair salon is doing well, and the doctor is actually a doctor and he's doing well. And they basically, in the end, make plans. Okay, I'm going to work all across the world. How about we open a hair salon chain all across the world? And that is the story. And I just can't fathom how wrong the entire relationship between the two felt. The reason that they stuck together is just so unhealthy, and that from that, like, and I just don't know if these characters should be together, because the doctor guy, the fact that he is so easily blaming himself for major things and is eating that stuff up and is like pushing it down to a point where he is willing to ruin his own life. The fact that his family had money, I'm pretty sure that is the thing that kept him off the streets when he wasn't working as a doctor and was not yet hired as a host. I'm pretty sure that was the only thing that kept him off the streets. And the fact that the hairdresser is so obsessed with his friend not being a doctor, and that he is personally, like, he feels personally attacked that his friend is not doing what he said he would do when he was in high school, when he was a teenager. The fuck is your problem? So I did not like that, and like the plot around that plot, what was also the plot that held the thing together, and like, no thank you. So all of that felt kind of icky. And to top it all off, the doctor guy works as a host, and when he started that job, the hairdresser friend was like, do you have any experience? Because host club apparently always equals you have to sleep with your clients, which is not true, but whatever. And the doctor friend said, no, I never did it. But he's like, however, I would not be opposed to just doing it with someone to know how it feels. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, if you're not putting too much emotional attachment into that, good for you. And then he's like casually dropping that he is kind of bisexual, that he wouldn't mind doing it with a guy. And that is when the hairdresser friend is like, well, if it has to be a guy, let it be me. And I'm like, okay, cool. How did we not realize that we are crushing on each other? Because they did it, and both of them enjoyed it. So there's that. So far, so good. Friends literally dicking around. Cool. Then, years later, or years, months, I don't know, the timeline is also very weird because you jump back and forth a lot. When they move in together, the host friend is literally making advances for like, hey, you're really tense, do you want to let it out? And he's literally offering his body to his soccer friend / hairdresser friend because he feels guilty for what he did, which he didn't do. He says that at the end, that he only wanted to live with his friend, that he only offered his body to his friend to make up for the fact that he caused the injury, which he never did. And that is just not healthy. That is so not healthy. Both of these people need therapy desperately. So yeah, I gave that 2 stars. The art style was nice, I guess, but they also didn't have any chemistry. The characters did not have any chemistry. So that was kind of a miss for me. And the other big miss was an even bigger miss. Was Scarred by Emily McIntire. I have to cry laugh at this book because it starts off with an author's note that this is not a fantasy. Okay, cool, urban thing. But it also says it's not a retelling, when it is literally The Lion King. Like, so much so that we have the princes and the kings calling themselves lions, and they discriminate against poor people by calling them hyenas. We literally have Timon and Pumbaa. Okay, sure, if you want to be delusional and say that your very clear retelling is not a retelling, go for it. I have read books that called themselves retellings that had barely anything to do with the original story. And you're basically copy and paste, but make everyone humans and put them in not even a modern setting, because apparently this takes place in 1910, so it's technically historical. But we also did not spend a single brain cell on the setting. We did not spend a singular brain cell on figuring out how 1910s technology works. So that was also a point where I was like, It didn't help that I listened to the audiobook, and apparently the kingdom, what is essentially Pride Lands, is called Saxum, Saxum, and I'm from Germany. So when I was listening to the audiobook, all I could hear was Saxon, as in Saxon, as in Saxony, as in the people who fucked up the Romans. Was so confusing. Like, the whole time I thought this was taking place in Germany, which then miffed me even more because 1910s Germany does not work the way it was written in the book. And then the cherry on top is the characters, because the characters feel very cardboard, and all of them are trying so hard to convince you that they are evil, but also they all want to be better than everyone else. It is that they are all basically Mary Sue. They are Mary Sues, all of them. And they have zero chemistry. They have so little chemistry that I'm not even buying the hate they have for each other. Allegedly. It's so bad. It's so bad. And the moment I DNF'd, I know the exact moment I DNF'd. I can tell you the exact moment I DNF'd because it was a quote from Sarah. Also, we have to start every chapter from her perspective with Sarah B. Dot, as in we shorten her last name so we can get the sound of Zarabi, which is the lioness Mufasa, married. Like, it's Zarabi is Simba's mother. So we have Sarah B, but we don't have Tristan F. You know, Tristan Fasa. We don't have Tristan F. We just have Tristan, and we have Sarah B. And you're telling me you're not a retelling? What is wrong with you? Anyway, back to the point I had. It was a point in the book where Sarabi, she is supposed to marry the king, which is Michael Fasa, aka Mufasa. She's supposed to marry him, and there is this ball thing, I don't know, but he picks her up and he offers her his elbow, and she asks, "Where are we going?" And he says, "Don't worry your pretty little head. All you have to do is look pretty by my side." And then we're in her head, and she's like, "I don't know why people think him charming. I think him rather arrogant and entitled." And I burst out laughing, because you call Michael that when I know for a fact the point of this book is you falling for Tristan, who a chapter before that, literally, multiple times he said, "I knew from a very early age that I was different." He even had a dialogue and a flashback with his dad telling him he's different than everyone else. And in the chapter before this quote, he literally says, "I'm usually smarter than everyone, and I made it my mission to be stronger than everyone, so I can one day show my brother just how much better I am." I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you, woman? If you think Michael is arrogant and entitled, which he is, why would you think that Tristan is something else? He is better in being arrogant and entitled. Because he literally said he's better than everyone else. Especially his brother. So, make it make sense. So that is the point where I DNF'd it, because I was like, ugh. At that point I was already incredibly disinterested in everything, and that was like, okay, no, this is where I draw the line, and I DNF'd it after 134 pages. I think that's like 26% or something. I still counted towards my like collecting quest for my TBR game, but wow, that was so bad. So Emily McIntire is a second chance author I will not give a third chance to, because I did not enjoy Hooked. I somehow made it through Hooked, but Scarred is so much worse. No thank you. I am so sick of being sick. I finished three more books. I didn't talk to you about them because I hoped that my stupid cold would clear up, but it doesn't. So now I'm just sitting here and talking to you to film this video, because if I don't film it now, I'm probably not going to film it at all. So what was the first thing that I finished? The first thing that I finished was Ellie Hayes and the Himbos, which was an audio arc I got via NetGalley, and it was fucking hilarious. But by the end of it, not all of these characters qualify as himbos, because the definition of a himbo, and it starts off with the definition of a himbo, is that you need big muscles, big heart, zero brain activity. And some of these characters actually develop a brain by the end of it. They actually have a brain, they just don't use it. There's a difference there somewhere. But Ellie Hayes and the Himbos follows Ellie, and she just broke up with her boyfriend at the beginning of the book, literally, that's what it starts out with. And she's looking for a place to stay because apparently they like had an apartment together, and now she's like, we broke up, I don't want to live there anymore. And she answers a insert. I don't even know how she found it, but there was a room opening and she wanted to check out the room, and she thought it would be just her and a bunch of girls living together, and turns out all of the people living there are just gym bros, but like the titular himbos. And she's like, yeah, no, you know what? Fuck it. And she just takes a look at the room, and then eventually she's because she has such a shit day, the boys kind of pick up on that. And this is where the book got me. It's like the first 10 pages or so. This is where the book got me. She's in the room, checking out the room on her own, and the boys are just out back doing whatever. And she has a call. Like, they already picked up, okay, she has a bad day, and she's in the room having a call with her best friend. And then when she's done and she wants to leave the room, all three of these guys are standing there offering her a single packet of string cheese because they googled what to do when a woman feels sad, and it gave them a list, and the only thing they had was cheese. So they present a single packet of string cheese to her and say, the internet told us to give you cheese when you're sad. And we go from there. They then invite her to a party they are throwing, and she gets hammered on that party, and she meets a guy in a bathroom, and they kind of make out, kind of don't. And she's like, yeah, whatever. And she then decides to move in with these guys because their apartment needs a lot of work, and she's like, okay, I need a project to distract myself because, and this is part of the reason that her boyfriend broke up with her, she had a medical scare, and they are now checking it out, and the diagnosis of MS is hovering in the room, and she has a 6-month period where she needs to observe her own body and or wait for some test results. So her boyfriend was like, okay, I cannot deal with this too, because Ellie also has endometriosis, and apparently a quite severe case of endo, and apparently a combination of her endometriosis and the chance of her having MS was too much for him. So he's like, how about we have a break? And she was like, have a Kit Kat, and she leaves. And I mean, yeah, good for her. What the fuck? So now she has the 6 months of, she doesn't know if she has a potentially devastating chronic health thing on top of her already devastating chronic health thing. She decides to live in the here and now and not to live for her future self, which may or may not have MS. And she also doesn't want to live for her past self, which had a shitty boyfriend. So she just lives in the here and now, and she moves in with the boys, and she helps the boys to live like adults and not like frat boys. And they all work at a gym. So she starts going to the gym, and it's a very inclusive gym because it's not about, okay, you need to build muscle, you need to lose fat. It's actually, okay, what do you want to do? Why do you want to work out? And how can we help you achieve that goal? And this gym is run by the brother of one of the guys, and that's also the guy Ellie drunkenly made out with in the bathroom during the party. So you can see where this is going. And that is essentially the entire plot. Ellie is just trying to live her life free of everything that usually restrained her, and she helps the boys, and she kind of falls in love with this gym owner, and she also helps with the gym. She starts working at the gym, and things go from there. And my god, the boys are just hilarious. They are the biggest teddy bears. I wanna hug all of them, and from the way it reads, all of them are very good huggers. It's definitely not what I expected when it said, okay, all of these are gym bros, because they are not that kind of gym bro. They're actually good people. They're actually really good people. In terms of rep, I personally don't have experience with MS or endometriosis. I have a couple of friends who have endometriosis, and it is not fun. They take horse tranquilizers and still can't get up out of bed because of the pain. So from just observing my friends and now reading about it, I think it was good representation in terms of endo. I cannot speak to the MS at all, but I think the way these characters work through it for themselves and with each other was a good and solid representation of how things can go. Of course, one experience is not all experiences, but it was a solid representation in my eyes, and it is the driving force of the story, but at the same time, it's not the driving force. Like, the MS diagnosis is the reason why Ellie is doing all of these things, but it she refuses to let it define her. And throughout the story, she learns as well that her romance, her romantic connections to other people don't have to be defined by her endo, which it was with her boyfriend. She works through that and the other thing, and it's just not a fan of the third act breakup. I generally disliked the third act breakup, but in this book it was completely preventable, so much so that Ellie herself said it was completely preventable. So why didn't we prevent it? But it doesn't last long. It's like a chapter or so. Like it's not a big deal. And overall, a really funny read. Beautiful romance. I actually in the beginning thought, okay, Ellie's going to end up with all of them. The potential was there. I'm just saying. But yeah, it was actually a really good one. And now I'm thinking, does that count as a sports romance? Because we are actively working out. Both of the characters who are falling in love are actively working out on page. We see them do it. We see them talk about it. Does that count as a sports romance? Because I have this bingo board where I need to check off a sports romance. The next thing I finished was The Murder Between Us by Tal Bauer, which is a crime romance, thriller romance. It's not really a thriller, but it's a crime story and a romance. Because we follow two FBI agents. One of them is just an FBI agent. The other one is a profiler, but with the famous BAU. And we follow this FBI agent first, and he is on a conference in Las Vegas. It's like a company mandated thing. He has to go every year. And every year for the past couple of years, he's been there and be like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So just try. What is he trying? Well, he wants to figure out if he's actually gay. And that night, he sits down at the bar and is like, okay, come on, I'm gonna do it. He wants to back out, but that is when the BAU guy starts hitting on him. And they hit it off, and they have a beautiful date night together, which ends in a semi-one-night stand. Because the FBI agent then has to leave the next morning because someone was murdered in his area. So he has to go there and investigate that. Now, here's the thing. These guys don't know that they are both FBI. They are staying in different hotels. They are attending different lectures at different times, so they haven't seen each other. They don't know that the other one is FBI as well, because they made the agreement not to talk about the job. So he goes back home, is trying to investigate this murder, and the profiler is like, oh, cool. He said he would call me the next day so we can have a second date, and now he ghosted me. So he's butthurt about that. But then he gets a call, okay, somewhere out in whatever the fuck country bumpkin town. They need a profiler, so he goes there, and then boom, turns out he is in the country bumpkin place where his one-night stand is currently investigating a murder case, and he has requested a profiler, which happens to be his one-night stand. So they are trying to navigate the fact that they had a one-night stand, that one of them is not out and cannot come out, or is at least not comfortable coming out now, and they have to investigate a murder case. And I love certain aspects of this story so much, because usually when you have a character that is just figuring out that they are gay or is not comfortable with coming out, the other involved party is pushing to come for this person to come out. Not in this one. The profiler is gay, the profiler is out and proud, so he is completely comfortable with himself, and from the get-go, from the first second they meet, he acknowledges the fact, okay, you need to figure out if you're gay. Can I help you? That is how their first night ends. Him helping this guy figuring out, am I gay, am I not gay? And he does that without any strings attached. He's just like, oh, okay, you're questioning. Can I help you find the answer? The FBI agent is also very open. Like, again, they wanted to have a second date, but the FBI agent is very open about the fact, hey, I'm not in a position where I can come out. I'm not comfortable with coming out. And the profiler is like, okay, cool, yeah, I get that. You do it at your own pace. If you need help, let me know. Beautiful, because not everyone can come out or wants to come out or has the chance to come out. Then when we meet back up again, okay, they are a bit miffed about like, okay, you didn't tell me you're a profiler. Well, you didn't tell me that you were called on a case. You just ghosted me. You could have texted me from the airport. So they're figuring that shit out, but they also then try to figure out their relationship while actively investigating this murder. And we also get the reason why the FBI agent wasn't comfortable with coming out. And again, the profiler is understanding all around. I can't fathom how understanding this guy is and how little he is pushing this guy to come out. It's just I've never really read about that in any kind of queer book. It's either all of them are out, or they come out right after they figure it out, or they are pushed to come out in order to preserve their relationship. I have never read a book where one party is just like, okay, you are questioning, let me help you find the answer. You don't want to come out, that is fine, let me know if I can help you with it. I have never read a book where that is the case, and I love that dearly. The murder case is also very solid. It's very solid. It's not too twisty and misleading, but it keeps you on your feet well enough. It keeps you on your feet well enough. And it is actually used to bring these characters closer together. Like, they learn about each other while observing each other, observing the crime scene and shit. Like, we are actually getting places. Good shit. Good shit. So if you want to read romance written by a guy and it's just healthy relationships, read The Murder Between Us. I'm definitely going to pick up book 2, The Grave Between Us. Hello? And the third book I read and finished is The Stars and the Stage by D.N. Bryn, which is a novella in the Guide to Dating Vampires series. And this one takes place in the past. I think it's like the 90s or something. And it features some characters that are going to come back up in book 3. So I decided to read this after having read book 1 and 2 and before having read book 3. And in this one we follow Diego, who is a trans mask non-binary person. Their story is that they ran away from home because they were turned into a vampire and everyone reacted very badly to that. So they ran away and they had a shitty life, but then they find their people and they are starting to get comfortable with A, being a vampire, but also B, expressing their gender in the way that feels comfortable for them. And they start working at this club that is just basically offering role-playing experiences where vampires don't have to hide themselves, where people who love vampires don't have to hide themselves. So it's a very safe space. And this other guy, Maddox, aka Maddie, comes back after 10 years of not having seen Diego, basically just comes back into their life. And he was one of the people who reacted very, very badly to Diego being a vampire. Like, very badly. They were high school sweethearts, they had their up and downs, but then Diego became a vampire and Maddox was like, what the fuck? He had one of the worst reactions to that and is part of the reason why Diego ran away in the first place. So now he shows back up and Diego is like, the fuck? But also Diego has now learned that they themselves have power. So they start like a little back and forth because Maddox is now participating in this club and showing back up, and Diego, it's Diego's job. So Diego's still doing these role plays. And there's some other stuff going on, but the main story is that these two slowly, very slowly reconnect over what they had, and they both reconcile about what happened. Maddox has grown as a person. He is now, yeah, no, vampires are actually kind of cool. He acknowledges what he did. He acknowledges that it was incredibly wrong. But Diego also realizes, okay, this guy has grown. This guy is not the 16-year-old idiot anymore. And they reconcile over that, and then they just fall back in love with each other. And then by the end, something happens that gives them the opportunity to go back to San Salud, where the other books all take place with the other vampires, and I guess they establish another club, another of these role-playing clubs in San Salud then, where we then probably are going to meet the characters in book 3. One character also already appeared in book 2, Valentine. He appeared in book 2 already, and he is in here as well because he is actually part of this relationship. It's like a little throuple, but with Valentine I think it's more platonic the way it is described. Like, these two are intimate, and I think with Valentine it's a bit more platonic. It's just like, okay, yeah, we're just vibing. He showed up in book 2 as well, and I think he is going to be a bigger character in book 3 together with these two. So that was a solid read, very short, but very much about like finding strength in being queer and finding your community. So I read these 3 books. I'm still sick. We will see if my next update will be a little less snotty. I do not make any promises. This cold has been so persistent.
Vampires! I may or may not have made an impulsive decision or two. Remember how I said that in February I want to focus on reading romances? Remember how I said what books are on my TBR? Yeah, well, throughout the month of January and then now February, I became obsessed with A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is the newest show in the Game of Thrones universe, and it is television perfection. The writing, amazing. The sets, amazing. The acting, amazing. The soundtrack, to die for. It is so good. And every time I watch something Game of Thrones related, no matter how good or bad it is, I always think I could just read Game of Thrones, but I never got it. And then A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms season 1 episode 4 happened, and I was like, fuck me, I need those books. Well, I got the books. And then episode 5 happened, and I was like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, I was not okay after episode 5. I didn't cry, but I legit, like, for a couple of days, I was actively grieving that character. Like, I was not okay. So I knew right then and there I will read the novellas. And then, yesterday, I watched the season finale. It's the most epilogue to have ever epilogued, but it's just so perfect. The entire show is so perfect. And then I sat idle for like 2 hours just listening to the soundtrack because it's so good, and it was also finally released. Still mad about the fact that we don't get the music from the scene where Lionel Baratheon and Dunk are dancing together like two birds flirting. I need that song. I also want a full-length version of Alice with Three Fingers because, yes, it's a new vocal stem. It's seriously, everything Lionel Baratheon says is a new vocal stem for me. Everything Maekar says is a new vocal stem for me. It's not funny. It's not funny. I'm obsessed. So after those 2 hours, I was like, I don't know what else to do. I could rewatch it again. I already rewatched it 5 times since it came out. Like every week when a new episode comes out, I'm like, I need to rewatch the entire thing just to make sure, you know? Yeah. Anyway, long story short, I read the first novella of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is The Hedge Knight by George R.R. Martin. This is my first time reading anything by George R.R. Martin, and I loved it. Of course I loved it. Here's the thing, I cannot view this on its own. This is now, because I watched the show first and so much, and I'm loving it so much, this will forever be tinted by the lens of the show. And I'm fully okay with that. It takes the source material and uses the source material and then makes it better to have it work for television. Because adapting a book to screen is one of the hardest things you can do. That's why so many adaptations fall flat, because these two medias are so different from one another. It worked. It's almost as if when you have a director who reads the source material, understands the source material, and likes the source material, and you get the original author on set to help you with rewrites, shit turns out good. Anyway, the novella for me, in comparing the novella to the show is impossible not to do when you watch both, because they are very similar. Like, this is an adaptation that lifts lines, like line by line is lifted off of the page, which is perfection. We shift a couple of dialogue pieces around so that other people say them, because it makes more sense in the show. And a lot of Dunk's internal dialogue is externalized in the show. But it is very much a one-to-one translation, and the show gives you more scenes. Like, for example, my boy, Lionel Baratheon. Never been a fan of the Baratheons, but Lionel Baratheon has like 2 sentences in this one, and he has like the entire stage whenever he's in the scene in the show. But it is very, very accurate. It read so easily, like even without the show, like just the text itself reads very light, very quickly. It's giving fairy tale without the fairy tale aspect, kind of. It's hard to describe how this story makes me feel. The speed at which you read it is like one of those old fairy tales, but it has none of the fairy tale aspects, because we are getting like nitty-gritty historical facts of how jousting works, of how shields display the what's it called, the heraldry of whoever has it. Like, we get historical facts. It's like an historical fairy tale. Very weird. Also, the illustrations in here, like I have the version with the illustrations. It's just so good. I am so in love with this. Technically, we could count this as a romance read because I've fallen so deeply in love with this entire thing. And now I have to debate, am I reading the second novella and the third novella right away because it's the collection, I have them in here, I could just read them, you know? Or am I waiting until next January when season 2 drops and I watch season 2 before I read the novella? I think I can read the novella first and then watch the season because the show changes just enough of the source material to make it something new, something fresh. And not gonna lie, I am currently so deep in my hyper focus on the Night of the Seven Kingdoms that I have trouble focusing on anything else. Like, I can't even think about watching another show. Any other book I look at looks just not attractive. Like, the only thing that kind of looks attractive is the actual Game of Thrones books, but I'm kind of scared and intimidated by starting Game of Thrones, you know? So I don't know, maybe I just sit down and read the other novellas at this point. What I do know is that I will end this wrap up here because of this hyper focus. I am quite sure there will be no more real reading being done. I have been low-key slumping the last couple of days. I have started The Mask of Mirrors. I'm halfway through that. And Jesus fuck, that thing requires so many brain cells of me. I am 33% through Discordant Cultivation at this point. And that reads very slowly because I actually, like, every couple of chapters something happens and I need a break because that book is... That's a heavy read. That's a heavy read. So I'm like halfway through that. I did start Lady for a Duke, but I'm reading that very slowly because I'm now annotating. So I'm reading that slower than I usually read because I'm taking the time to highlight stuff and comment on stuff and shit. So I am not confident that I can finish anything before the end of February. It is now the 24th, so I have 4 more days to finish one of these books, and I don't think I can. I don't think I'm in the mindset to finish one of these books that I started, and if I do any kind of reading, it will probably be the A Night of the Seven Kingdoms novellas. It be what it be. It be what it be. If you made it to the end of this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what you read in February. What was your best read in February? Are you as obsessed with A Night of the Seven Kingdoms as I am now? Or are you boring? If you don't want to talk to me at all, leave a stag emoji. I need to see those antlers in the comments down below. And yeah, I guess I will see you in the next video. Bye.